So, as we look at this information coming in through the pathways, going through the motor areas of the brain, and then feeding forward up into this awareness area of the brain. Move! Your bottom's sore. Move. Get out of here. Or something's uncomfortable. Or there's something going to happen here. Or remember the kids are waiting over there at the park. You need to go pick them up. Move. Okay? All that prosody of thought has to come to summation into the frontal lobe, or this awareness. Alright? My responsibilities as a parent. I've got to go home and feed the kids. I've got to pick up the kids. The kids have this activity. Did they do their homework? Am I always going to be the brain for my child? It seems like it, right? Until I start to give them more frontal lobe responsibility. Give them opportunities for reward of their own brain and satisfaction for that brain as well. Okay? So what starts to happen then in the Parkinsonism type brain? Movement is essential in a couple of areas of the brain that are associated then with some of the feedback loops, because if the thalamus is always on and always letting information come to the frontal lobes, we'd get nothing done. Okay? That's where the attention deficits come in, that's where the migrainous episodes come in, that's where the pain prosody or the pain presentations of fibromyalgia and chronic fatigues, those types of things, it's always on and I can't turn it off. So there are a couple of areas. There's an internal pathway that will shut this off, and there's an external pathway that will shut this off. And this, again, these two areas are very black, okay, in the brain. And I'll describe what that means. So we have what's called the globus pallidus pars interna. You don't have to remember this. Globus pallidus pars externa. All we're saying is there are some feedback pathways that inhibit this thalamic integration that makes me consciously aware, okay? When I put on my stocking, I don't have to keep pulling my stocking up to make sure it's up. Once it's there, and my brain says, I'm aware, shut that off. And we drop that loop, okay? Once I've gotten to where I'm supposed to be, I don't have to keep thinking, am I at the kitchen sink? Am I at the kitchen sink? Is this the kitchen sink? This is the kitchen sink? No, why am I at the kitchen sink? Once we're there, this feeds off, and now I can start to think of something else, okay? So that's the importance of this. Now, these areas in the brain, when we actually do brain dissection, I had a wonderful opportunity a year ago to go with Professor Carrick and several of my colleagues to a university in California medical school and actually dissect the brain and look at this. And it's absolutely phenomenal, because when you go through the cross sections of the brain is, again, 70% fat. It's white, okay? When you get into these areas that are very, very deeply rich with the dopaminergic activating centers of the brain, this globus pallidus and the substantia nigra, what we see are these areas that are just rich with pools of cells or neurons that actually create this prosody of movement. And they are very, very dependent on a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Yep. Okay. These dopaminergic activating centers of the brain require activity and respond to activity and help us in our activity. When they start to slow in their activity, then what do we see? A slowness in movement. Okay? But what do we even see before that slowness of movement? Beneath the frontal lobes, at the very top of the nasium, is the very first cranial nerve. Two little bulbs that project directly forward from the brain itself and drop down through the nasal sinuses, these little hair-like projections that are our olfactory bulb. Okay, this is our sense of smell. Sense of smell comes from cranial nerve number 1. Okay? Cranial nerve number 1. So when we looked at the smells tonight, before everybody came in, you received a little Parkinsonism screen, okay? And Ashley gave to you 4 food smells, or 4 pleasant smells. The first one was lavender. Yep, that was the bad cologne with the high karate. I've smelled this on a hippie before. I know. I recognize that.
Okay, but guess what?
I've smelled
I have
some
lavender
bad.
in my purse that smells more like lavender than that.
Well, then maybe we should have used yours.
Yeah.
The second one, number B, or letter B, that was oregano. Kind of like pizza. Okay? And if I were to come back around at the end, I'll let you all identify it again, and you'll have better sense. Okay? Oregano. The next one, number C, lemon. You got that one, kind of citrusy, lemon. And then the last one, number D, was spearmint or peppermint. Yep, mint. Everybody got that? Okay? So, if you were able to smell those, wonderful. If you didn't, what this is telling us is in your sense of smell area, there is a change, or what we call Lewy body formation, or in other words, fat deposition in the cells where there normally would have been a high-functioning nerve response. Those cells are starting to be replaced with fat. There's a demise of that area of the brain. Okay? The next question on your questionnaire, let's just read this through. Do you have, yes or no, regularly dry eyes? Dry eyes and dry mouth are innervated by a nucleus inside of, let's see here, inside of the brain that's going to be actually below the brain, okay? And it gives innervation back to the eyes, to the lacrimal glands, here up at the upper corner of the eye, and causes lacrimation or tearing, and also stimulates saliva production, okay? That nucleus, if it starts to have Lewy body formation in it and fat deposition in it, I end up getting dry eyes and dry mouth. Okay? Then we look at constipation. In the brain stem, near this area where the substantia nigra is, if there is a change in Lewy body formation there, there's a slowness then of bowel stimulation, cranial nerve 10. There will also be then a slowness of elimination. And that's not just thyroid, okay, because we've talked about thyroid in the past. So there's differentiation. Don't think, oh my goodness, I've got constipation, but I don't have the others. You're right. That may be a thyroid problem. But as we look at these, and we're kind of putting these together, this may be Parkinsonism, okay? So if you have this, and this, and this, okay, and then we put an irregular heartbeat, again, cranial nerve 10. And then we look at a lack of arm swing on either side while walking. Actually, you'll want to see this for us at home. Okay? When you look at a person with Parkinsonism, what you'll see is a real, normally we should see there's a movement of the arms. Okay? What you'll see with Parkinsonism is a real stiffness to the arms. Okay? They'll keep the arms at their side. And then when they try to turn, there will be a slowness of the turn, okay? And then again, a lack of arm swing. Normally when you walk, there should be a little arm swing, and then when you turn, there will be arm swing again, okay? Does that make sense? And you'll see this. Watch for it. You'll see the person with Parkinsonism, they'll start to get a very wooden soldier appearance, and they'll keep their arms almost locked to their side, and then there will be a difficulty turning, okay? Sometimes they'll even put their hand out and support themselves. Once they get turned, then they start to walk again, and they're okay. Right? So again, early signs, that's more advanced, though, when you start to see the woodenness of gait. And then we look there, a noticeable tremor, and really, it's the resting tremor. Okay? So the resting tremor, when they're just sitting there, it's called the pill rolling tremor. It looks like they're just holding a little pill between their thumb and forefinger, and they'll just roll like this, okay? Yep, you'll see them when they're just sitting. It's a resting tremor, okay? Now here's the differential of this. When you ask them to do something, the tremor will go away. Have them touch their nose, or have them touch their fingers together, or clap their hands, or write, and you'll see their writing will get smaller, but the tremor diminishes. The tremor that increases, the intention tremor, when you actually try to do something, that's a cerebellar tremor. That's different. So if I ask somebody, can you sign your name? And they're like, sure, that's an intention tremor, okay? The person with the Parkinson tremor has a resting tremor when they're just sitting there. they're just, their hands on their lap, and they'll just be doing this, okay? Or their chin will start to, their jaw will kind of quiver, and they get the real mask face, the unexpressive face, okay? And you see the tremor like this. But when you ask them to sign their name, you'll see that they can sign it, but then it will start to get smaller as they go along, okay? Like this. And that's more of the Parkinsonism, okay? Everybody good to that point on our screen? Does anybody want to take one of these screens home and ask somebody to pass those out? Just, you're free to, you're welcome to take some, okay? You have some extras. And it has actually, these are just some recyclers. That's my old office in Oregon, the old office phone number in Oregon, and my partner back in Oregon. So if you call that number, you'll get Dr. Chambers, okay? And Ashley can give you an updated number. But I just want you to have those screens. If you want one, take it. If not, fine. Everybody good to this point, though? So let's talk about then the next key with Parkinsonism. Why is there so much then this stoop forward type of presentation? Why is there so much this slowness again of the movement? Okay? Correct. Their center of pressure has changed. So their perception is they're going to be falling backward. Okay? If I feel like we're going to fall backward, which way am I going to lean? Forward, right? But I can't get there fast enough, so the more forward I lean, then the more safe I feel. And that's what you start to see with Parkinsonism, is this extreme stoop forward type of a movement, right? And then the head is up, and they're moving in this type of a position. Okay? Have you observed that? Yeah. Their biggest risk is trip and fall, right? So what do we do right off the onset? When we have a Parkinson patient, whatever chair they're in or whatever stair they're climbing, take yellow tape and put a line down for them first. Okay? Take a piece of tape and put it right there in their chair so that when they stand, they have to look down and they have to step over the tape and they'll actually be able to walk. So that's one of the first things we do, is give them a target to step over. So it's, Dad, look, when you get up, you got to step over this line, okay? Because normally what he does is he's looking forward and he can't get going, right? So what you're going to do is give him a cue, look forward, step over that line, and you'll see him actually be able to walk sooner, okay? So that's one of the first things we do. When he comes to a step, he's looking up still, and he's trying to find that step, but he doesn't find it, right? Because he used to have good joint position, joint receptor position, but he doesn't have that anymore. So he's trying to find the step, and he can't find it. Put the yellow tape on the first step, look at the step, and have him climb the step. Okay? So give him some targets. Does that make sense? If I have the perception that I'm falling backward, where do my eyes go when I'm falling backward? Downward. Okay? So if my joint position receptor or center of pressure from gravity gives me the perception that I'm falling backward, my eyes are going downward, which way do we want the eyes to come? Up. Okay? So what do? Take our little red and white strip, right? And we go from down to up. Okay? Just like that. We want to go from down to up, because now his eyes are pursuing upward as he's looking up, but he's having then that gait response in the eyes. Okay? Now, why do we do this little response with the eyes? Whenever